Volkswagen just told its own dealers they are done. Not struggling, not restructuring, done. The company launched a brand new subsidiary called Scout Motors and announced it will sell trucks and SUVs directly to consumers from company-owned stores. The thousands of VW dealers who built the brand in America are not invited. 14 California dealers just filed formal protests. A class action now covers every VW dealer in the country. But this is not just about one company, because if VW pulls this off, what happens to the 1 million Americans whose jobs depend on the dealership model that is about to be ripped apart? So here's what Volkswagen actually did. In 2022, the Volkswagen Group quietly created a new company called Scout Motors. The name goes back to the original International Harvester Scout, built from 1961 to 1980. VW owns the rights because they bought Navistar, which was the successor to International Harvester, back in 2021. On October 24, 2024, Scout CEO Scott Keogh stood in front of 300 invited guests in Franklin, Tennessee, and revealed two production vehicles: the Scout Traveler, a full-size SUV, and the Scout Terra, a full-size pickup truck. Both available as pure electric or extended range with a gas backup motor, both starting under $60,000. After federal and state incentives, the Traveler drops to around $50,000, the Terra to about $51,500. These are body-on-frame trucks with a solid rear axle, front and rear mechanical lockers, over 12 inches of ground clearance, and a towing capacity above 7,000 pounds on the SUV and 10,000 on the pickup. They are building a $2 billion factory on 1,100 acres in Blythewood, South Carolina. The plan is 4,000 workers producing up to 200,000 vehicles a year. And as of March 2026, Scout has racked up over 160,000 reservations at $100 each. 80% of those are for the extended range version with the gas engine backup. Here's the part that set the industry on fire. Scout will sell every single one of those vehicles directly. No Volkswagen dealers, no Audi dealers, no franchise network of any kind. Online ordering through their own website, company-owned experience centers, fixed pricing, no negotiation. Keogh himself said it. He called direct sales 100% of the plan. He talked about having profound control over the cash register. He framed it as the best and fastest way to get a $65,000 asset into a buyer's driveway. Now imagine you are a Volkswagen dealer. You have spent 20, maybe 30 years selling VWs. You built the service department, you trained the techs, you put up the signs, you paid for every warranty repair VW ever authorized. And then the parent company launches a brand new truck line, prices it right in the middle of the market you serve, and tells you that you will have absolutely nothing to do with selling it. That is not a hypothetical. That is what is happening right now to every VW dealer in America, and they are fighting back hard. But what is really at stake here goes way beyond one brand. Because if VW's plan survives the courtroom, the consequences ripple out to an industry that employs more people than you would ever guess. More on that in a minute. The first major lawsuit came from the California New Car Dealers Association. Filed April 22, 2025, originally in San Diego County Superior Court, then moved into federal court. California has a law called Assembly Bill 473, passed in 2023, which specifically bans automakers from using affiliated brands to compete with their own franchise dealers. The CNCDA says Scout is exactly that. An affiliated brand owned by Volkswagen Group, selling vehicles that compete directly with what VW dealers sell. They are asking for an injunction to stop Scout from selling in California and penalties of $2,500 per transaction. At the scale Scout is planning, that is over $35 million. And on March 30, 2026, a federal judge denied Scout's motion to dismiss the core claim. Discovery is now moving forward. That was the first domino. On May 1, 2026, 14 individual California VW dealers filed their own formal protests at the California New Motor Vehicle Board. This is a different legal venue where the burden of proof flips. VW has to prove it is not violating franchise law. The dealers do not have to prove anything. Miles Brandon, president of Capistrano Volkswagen, told reporters that VW left them no choice. That VW is competing against the very dealers who built their business in California. And if that were the only legal front, Volkswagen might have been able to contain it. But then came Florida. In February 2025, roughly 25 to 30 VW and Audi dealers filed suit in Miami. Florida passed its own amendment in 2023, saying that any manufacturer who owns 30% or more of another entity gets treated as the same manufacturer under franchise law. VW owns all of Scout. Then came Virginia. On March 3, 2026, 2 VW dealers filed a federal class action in the Eastern District of Virginia. The key detail here is that the class automatically certifies. Every single Volkswagen dealer in the United States is now covered by this lawsuit, whether they ask to be or not. The plaintiffs are seeking over $5 million in damages and a permanent injunction. CNCDA President Brian Moss put it bluntly. He called Scout a potential existential threat to dealers. He said if VW gets away with this, pick any manufacturer, GM, Toyota, Subaru, any of them could decide to do the exact same thing. And that warning lands different when you realize that one of the biggest automakers in America already tried. And it blew up in their face. But before we get to Ford, remember what is really on the line here. This is not just a corporate turf war between executives and dealerships. There are real people, real families, and real paychecks caught in the middle. And the number of those paychecks is going to shock you. Las Vegas, September 2022. Ford CEO Jim Farley stood in front of his entire dealer network and dropped the Model E program. Here was the deal. Every Ford dealer in America had a choice. Invest around $500,000 to become Model E certified, which let you sell up to 25 EVs per year, or invest between $900,000 and $1.2 million to become Model E certified elite, which removed the sales cap. Roughly 90% of that cost was charging infrastructure, DC fast chargers, installation, electrical upgrades. And there was one requirement that Ford treated as non-negotiable. Every EV would be sold at a fixed price. No haggling, no markups, no negotiation. Ford was going to set the price, and the dealer was going to accept it. Farley had been building toward this for months. At a Bernstein investor conference in May 2022, he said it out loud. We have got to go to non-negotiated price. We have got to go to 100% online. There is no inventory. 100% remote pickup and delivery. He compared Ford's cost structure to Tesla's and admitted the gap was a couple $1,000s per car. By December 2022, about 1,920 dealers out of roughly 2,968 had enrolled. 65% of the network said yes. Look, I get what Farley was trying to do. If you are losing $36,000 on every electric F-150 you sell, you need to cut costs somewhere. Dealer markups during 2021 and 2022 made Ford look terrible. Customers were paying $10,000, $15,000, sometimes $20,000 over sticker on Lightning trucks. Farley wanted control. I understand that. But wanting control and having the legal right to take it are two very different things. Think about what Ford was asking a family-owned dealership to do. You are a third-generation dealer in a town of 40,000 people. You have already invested millions in your facility. You employ 65 people. And now, your manufacturer tells you to come up with another $1 million in cash for chargers that your customers are not asking for. And if you do not pay up, you cannot sell half of Ford's future lineup. That is not a business proposal. That is an ultimatum. And the dealers treated it like one. Ford's dealers did not roll over. Arkansas filed first, October 2022. Then, 27 Illinois dealers filed. Then 4 New York dealers. Then Florida. Then North Carolina. Then South Dakota. 6 states with formal legal challenges in less than a year. On November 16, 2023, the Illinois Motor Vehicle Review Board ruled that Ford's Model E program violated the state's Motor Vehicle Franchise Act. The head of the Illinois Automobile Dealers Association called it a home run for the dealers. In New York, a judge stayed the entire program for 5 plaintiff dealers in September 2023. South Dakota ruled for Ford, But that was the only win. By January 2024, Ford blinked. They slashed the requirements roughly in half. Chargers went from 5 down to 2. The Level 3 fast charger mandate got dropped entirely for 2026. Training costs got cut. The total dealer investment fell by about 50%. And by July 2025, Jim Farley was standing in front of cameras calling Ford's dealer network the company's secret sauce. The same guy who wanted 100% online, 100% non-negotiable pricing was now hugging the franchise model like it was his idea all along. Call me skeptical, but I do not think Farley changed his mind. I think his lawyers changed it for him. While Ford was getting sued in 6 states, Toyota was doing the exact opposite. And nobody talks about it because Toyota does not do drama. October 2022, the same month Ford was launching Model E and VW was dreaming up Scout. Akio Toyoda, then the CEO and now chairman of Toyota, stood in front of his dealer network in Las Vegas and said 7 words that every other automaker should have listened to. This franchised model is not going anywhere. The room gave him a standing ovation. Toyota never floated direct sales, never tested fixed pricing at the corporate level, never asked dealers to invest $1 million in chargers they did not want. Instead, they built a platform called SmartPath, launched in April 2020. It is a digital retail system that lets customers configure a vehicle, get financing through Toyota Financial Services, see real dealer inventory, and get a trade-in value, all online. The difference is that the dealer stays at the center of the transaction. SmartPath does not replace the dealer, it feeds the dealer. By late 2021, Toyota dealers had completed more than 46,000 vehicle sales through SmartPath. Individual Toyota stores, like John Elway's Crown Toyota in Ontario, California, run voluntary one-price policies on their own. But that is a dealer decision, not a corporate mandate. And Toyota showed up again at the 2025 National Dealer Meeting, specifically to reassure dealers about tariff impacts. 2 years in a row, the chairman of the biggest automaker in the world flying to America just to tell his dealers he has their back. Now, you can agree or disagree with Toyota's strategy, but here is what nobody can argue with. In 2021, Toyota outsold GM in the United States for the first time since 1931. 2,332,262 vehicles. They did it with the franchise model. They did it with dealer relationships. And while Ford was fighting its own network and VW was trying to go around its dealers, Toyota was selling more cars than anyone in America. That is not a coincidence. If you ask me, Toyota is the only automaker in this entire story that treated its dealers like partners instead of problems. And their sales numbers prove it works. So now we have got 3 companies, 3 strategies. VW says cut the dealers out. Ford says we tried and it nearly destroyed us. Toyota says the dealer network is our greatest weapon. But here's the question nobody in the industry wants to answer. What happens if VW wins these lawsuits and every automaker follows their lead? Because make no mistake, they are watching. Every single major automaker has an internal team studying what Scout does next. And if VW finds a legal path around franchise law, there will be a line of companies behind them before the ink is dry on the verdict.
Let me give you the numbers because they are staggering. There are 16,990 franchised new car dealerships in the United States. They employ 1.13 million people. That is more than the entire coal mining, steel production, and airline pilot workforce combined. Total payroll in 2024 was $94.99 billion. Average weekly earnings per employee, $1,897. These dealerships sold 16.2 million vehicles last year for a combined $1.3 trillion. They completed 276 million repair orders. They generated $164 billion in service and parts revenue. In California alone, franchise dealers employed 138,478 people and paid $8.83 billion in state sales tax. In Metro New York, dealers accounted for $67.6 billion in economic activity, 67,300 jobs, and $2.89 billion in state and local taxes. New Jersey reported over $2.1 billion in tax revenue from dealerships in a single year. Imagine showing up to work at one of these dealerships tomorrow. You are a service tech who has been there for 12 years. You know every regular customer by name. You coach your kid's baseball team. Your mortgage is based on your salary. And then your manufacturer announces they do not need your dealership anymore. They are going to sell online from a company-owned store in the next city over. Your job, your co-workers' jobs, the lot attendant, the receptionist, the finance manager, the parts counter guy. All of it, gone. That is not a scare tactic. That is 1.13 million people. And here is the part that makes this even more complicated. There is a real argument that the dealer model is costing you money. A study from the International Center for Law and Economics, released in 2026, estimates that state franchise laws add between $3,934 and $4,992 to the price of every new car. They call it the middleman tax. Inventory sitting on dealer lots costs between $1,045 and $1,105 per vehicle just in carrying costs, plus floor plan interest running 6 to 9%. That is real money coming out of your pocket every time you buy a car. On the other side, NADA fired back with their own study from Oliver Wyman, one of the biggest consulting firms in the world. Oliver Wyman concluded that replicating the dealer network from scratch would cost any major automaker between $25 and $45 billion in fixed capital alone. Land, buildings, equipment, before you even hire a single employee. And they argued that at mass market scale, the franchise model actually has a lower distribution cost than selling direct. So who is right? Honestly, I think they both are, which is the problem. The dealers are expensive, but replacing them might be even more expensive. And meanwhile, the customer is stuck in the middle, paying for a system that nobody can agree is actually working. Right now, there are at least 17 states that explicitly ban manufacturer direct sales. 18 states allow them, mostly for EV-only startups. About 9 states grandfather in companies like Tesla, but block new entrants. All 50 states, plus Washington, D.C., have some form of franchise protection law on the books. These laws have been around since the 1950s. They were originally written to stop manufacturers from bullying small business owners, and for decades, they worked. But now, the same laws designed to protect dealers from getting pushed around by automakers are being used by dealers to block consumers from buying cars however they want. Tesla spent 15 years and fought in 27 states just to win the right to sell its own cars without a middleman. Rivian sells direct in 25 states and is suing Ohio right now because Ohio only lets Tesla sell direct and blocks everyone else. Rivian's CEO called state franchise laws as close as you can get to corruption. And now VW, one of the largest automakers on the planet, is trying to bust through the same wall that Tesla spent a decade chipping away at. If Scout wins in California, in Virginia, or in the class action, the floodgates open. Brian Maas said it himself, pick a manufacturer, any manufacturer. If VW gets away with this, 5 or more legacy automakers will launch direct sales sub-brands within 18 months. And if that happens, the 1.13 million jobs, the $95 billion payroll, the billions in state and local tax revenue, all of it goes on the chopping block.
But there is one more thing nobody is talking about. If the dealers disappear, who fixes your car? Right now, 276 million repair orders go through dealership service departments every year. $164 billion in parts and labor. In rural America, the nearest dealer might already be an hour away. Without the franchise network, that hour becomes 2 or 3. Or you wait 6 weeks for a mobile service van. Tesla owners already deal with this. Scout has already admitted its service plan will rely partly on mobile units. If you live in Dallas or Los Angeles, maybe that works. If you live in rural Montana or central Kentucky, good luck getting a mobile service van to your ranch when your truck's battery management system throws a fault code in January. And it is not just the repairs. Dealership service departments are where warranty work gets done, where recalls get fixed, where the guy behind the counter knows your truck's history because he has been looking at it for 6 years. You replace that with an app and a phone queue and a service van that might show up next Thursday, and you have not modernized anything. You have made it worse. Rivian ranked #1 in Consumer Reports' 2026 Owner Satisfaction Survey, and even their customers complain about service wait times. Now imagine scaling that to millions of vehicles across the entire country without a single brick-and-mortar service center in half the states. The California federal case against Scout survived the motion to dismiss in March. Discovery is underway. If the court grants a preliminary injunction blocking Scout from selling in California before production starts, the entire direct sales movement freezes for 2 to 3 years. If Scout wins a summary judgment or a jury verdict in any of the 4 pending cases, expect every major automaker to start building their own version of Scout within a year and a half. Ford already has the playbook. They just did not have the legal cover. A Scout victory gives them that cover. Scout's production has already slipped. It was supposed to be end of 2026, then late 2027. Now Scott Keogh says customer deliveries will not start until 2028. That gives the courts time, and it gives the dealers one more window to fight. The next major ruling in the California case is expected before the end of 2026. Subscribe so you get that breakdown the day it drops.